Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're going into the really powerful story of the ancient tribe of Thamud, and specifically their clash with Prophet Salih. Now, our sources, the Holy Quran and authentic prophetic tradition, they paint this picture of an incredibly secure civilization, famous for engineering, physical strength, economic power. So our mission for you, listening in, is to figure out how people who literally carved security into mountains, how did they just collapse?
Yeah.
And in only 3 days, it's quite the puzzle.
It really is. A stunning story, historically and theologically. And the setting, Wadi al-Qurat, that's key. We know today as Madain Ali or Al-Hijr. Thamud came after the people of Ad. They inherited that legacy. To understand the fall, you first have to grasp the sheer scale of their power.
Right. Okay, let's start there. Their strength, they didn't just live there. They mastered the land.
Yeah.
The sources talk about this constructive strength from their ancestors. Huge bodies, amazing builders, like the world's first great architectural engineers, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. They were incredibly clever in how they used the landscape for, public life, big ceremonies. They built these grand palaces out on the plains, impressive stuff. But for real, long-term security, for safety, they turned to the mountains. They used their strength and skill to carve these amazing homes deep inside the rock itself.
And that detail, the carving, it wasn't just hacking away, was it? It was skilled work, artistry. What do the sources say about the quality?
Yeah, it was precise. Surah Ash-Shu'ara gives us a hint. It questions them, basically asking, will you be left secure in gardens and springs? And you carve homes out of mountains with skill. The emphasis is on the skill, the artistry, turning solid rock into, a home. It says a lot about their capabilities.
So that very skill, the thing that made them feel safe, it kind of became a wall, didn't it? A wall between them and needing anything else. If you can live inside a mountain protected from weather, enemies, time itself, maybe you start thinking you don't need divine mercy.
That's precisely the analysis. That physical security, that feeling of permanence, it bred a kind of spiritual arrogance. They knew what happened to Ad, the history was there. But they fell into the same trap. Everything became about the material, about what they could build and control, the idols they worshipped, probably just reflections of their own self-reliance. They genuinely seemed to believe their mountain fortresses made them untouchable by anyone or anything, including the Creator.
But wait, if they knew about Ad, why repeat the mistake? What makes a whole civilization ignore such a massive warning sign right in their history?
Well, power does that, doesn't it? It can blind you. They saw the proof of their mastery every single day in the cities and homes they built. It reinforced their belief in themselves. But this is where the story shifts. Allah sends Prophet Salih, and importantly, he wasn't an outsider, not some conqueror. He was one of them, respected for his wisdom, apparently.
Okay, so he comes from within.
Right. And his call wasn't initially about miracles. It was rational. An appeal to their own logic, really. He reminded them, look, you were made successors here, but you're still part of a larger plan. Surah Hud captures it well. "O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. He brought you forth from the earth and settled you in it." That's a reminder, basically. You didn't create the earth. You're just living on it. You're tenants.
A rational call. But they weren't interested in reason, were they? They wanted something bigger, something that even they couldn't engineer.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting. They rejected the logical argument. And instead, they demanded proof. But not just any proof. An impossible physical miracle to validate his prophethood.
Okay, what was the demand?
It was incredibly specific and kind of tailored to their own pride in construction. They demanded that a huge pregnant she-camel had to emerge right out of a specific solid rock in the mountain, fully formed.
Wow, out of the rock they lived in?
Precisely. It had to be something undeniably beyond their skills, beyond anyone's skills. The sources call it the clear sign they demanded.
That is quite the challenge. They essentially dared God to outperform their own engineering, but with life itself.
You could say that. And the sources confirm the miracle happened. By divine power, the she-camel emerged just as they asked.
Okay, so proof delivered. End of story.
Not quite. The miracle wasn't just a spectacle. It came with conditions. It was immediately framed as a test. A binding covenant.
A test of what? Their belief.
Their obedience. And it centered on their most vital resource, water, which they, of course, tightly controlled.
No, exactly.
Laid down the rules, a strict water sharing system. We see this in Surah Al-Qamar. One day, all the water was for the she-camel alone. She was massive, apparently needed a lot. The next day, the water was for the entire tribe, all their people, all their livestock. They had to alternate.
Hold on. This giant miracle camel, Naqad Allah, the she-camel of God, It's now dictating their water access. For a people obsessed with control and mastery over their environment, that must have been infuriating.
Infuriating is probably an understatement. It was a daily, visible symbol of their diminished control. A living miracle was imposing restrictions on them. The leaders, the elite, they couldn't stand it. It was an affront to their pride, their dominance.
So what did they do? Just complain?
Oh, it went way beyond complaining. They started calling the camel an evil omen. They accused Aliyah of being a sorcerer, bringing bad luck. It was easier to blame magic than to accept they weren't fully in charge anymore. Their pride just couldn't handle the reality of the situation.
And this resentment, it didn't just stay as talk, did it? It turned into action, conspiracy.
Yes, it escalated quickly. The sources are quite specific here. The leaders conspired to kill the she-camel, but they didn't want to do it themselves, interestingly. They wanted plausible deniability, perhaps.
So they outsourced the crime.
Pretty much. They found the most wretched man among them. The sources even name him, Kedar ibn Salih. They picked someone already known for being mortally corrupt to carry out the sacrilege, to actually slaughter the divine camel.
Using the worst of their society to kill the best sign they were given, that says a lot about the leadership.
It speaks volumes about their own corruption, doesn't it? They instigated, but used him as the instrument.
So, Kedar kills the she-camel. What's Alia's reaction? Does he call down fire immediately?
No, something almost colder, more terrifying in a way. His response was immediate, but it wasn't instant destruction. He gave them a warning, a countdown. Exactly 3 days, a final chance for repentance before the punishment arrived, a promise that couldn't be broken.
3 days, just waiting, knowing doom is coming.
Imagine the psychological pressure. Waiting in those very homes they carved for safety, now knowing they were potential tombs. Surhood quotes him. Ali said, "Enjoy yourselves in your homes for 3 days. That is a promise not to be denied." Absolute certainty, delivered to a people who thought they controlled certainty.
Chilling.
So the 3 days pass. What happens then? How does the punishment arrive? It wasn't like the wind that destroyed her.
No, it was unique, seemingly tailored to them. It wasn't wind, it was sound and earth. The main element was Ante, the terrifying scream, or the shout. But it wasn't just a loud noise. It seems to have been a seismic and sonic event. It came with a massive earthquake, shaking the ground violently from beneath them.
A scream and an earthquake.
Yeah.
Together. What did that do to people?
The sources describe a devastating instant effect. The scream itself seemed to stun or deafen their minds, overwhelm their senses completely. Combined with the violent shaking, it killed them instantly, right where they stood or sat.
Just dead in their places.
Exactly. Lifeless bodies in their homes. That's the description in Surhood. They were seized by this shout, this blast.
And there's that other image too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Something about dry grass. Yes, Surah Al-Qamar uses that powerful simile. It says they became like the crushed dry grass or stubble that a pen builder uses, just brittle, broken, lifeless. In an instant, this mighty civilization, so focused on permanence, reduced to nothing inside the very fortresses they built.
And Alia. And any believers.
They were saved, spared the destruction. But the region itself was left desolate, empty. A monument to what happened.
So the final lesson seems inescapable. All that building, all that power, useless against defiance.
Absolutely. They confused mastering stone with mastering their own fate. Their physical power couldn't shield them when their actions were guided by arrogance and rejection of the divine.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. We've seen their incredible strength, their specific, almost petulant demand for a miracle from rock, the political tension around the she-camel, this test they failed, and then this unique end, the seismic scream.
And the core insight, I think, is how they defined security. For Thamud, security was stone. It was carving mountains, building impregnable defenses, physical walls. They built their entire worldview on that physical foundation, forgetting the spiritual one.
Which brings us to that final, really stark thought for you, the listener, to take away. Think about the irony, the deep, bitter irony. The very homes they carved into the mountains, masterpieces of engineering designed for ultimate security, for permanence, they became their instant, inescapable tombs. So it makes you ask, doesn't it? In a world where even stone fortresses can be shattered by a sound, what does true security actually look like? What does it really mean to be safe? That's something to think about.